Hi everyone, in this video we will learn how to use Jupyter Notebook and Python libraries. So let me show you how we will be starting the Jupyter Notebook. Just go to your start button and type Jupyter Notebook after the installation of Anaconda. It will take a couple of minutes to open. So once the Jupyter Notebook opens, it looks something like this. Now, in this sheet, we will look into various operations that we can perform using Pandas library. The first thing is import the libraries. And before that, open the file pandas.ipynb. So this is the file Pandas Practice.ipynb. I am importing libraries pandas and numpys in my first step. So whenever in my code you encounter PD, it means pandas, and whenever in the code you encounter NP, that is numpy. So why we are importing them as PD and NP is because whenever we want to use pandas and numpys, we can't write the whole spelling. So instead of that, we are making it short and representing it as PD and NP. So to import these, I click on Shift Enter. So you can see a star mark here. That means it is executing and processing. It takes little time to execute. Now you can see that the number 1 has appeared. It means it's executed. Now come to the second line of the code. This tells us how to import data in Python. So I am importing a data set named as titanic.csv. These commands tells you that you have to import these files into this variable data. Now, again type Shift Enter to execute it. As you can see, the number 2 has come. That means the data is executed. Now, the first thing that we do is have a look at the data. Let me look at the top 5 rows of the data. For that, I will use data.head command. This command we are going to use so that we can look at the first 5 rows of the data. Let me execute this. As you can see, we have the first 5 rows of the data. We have almost all the columns in the first 5 rows of the data. The columns are passenger LD, survived, P class, name, sex, age, SIB-SP. These are the short forms of the columns. Ticket, fare, cabin, embark, and so on. Now, this is my data. So now I want to check total how many rows and columns are there in my data. So I use the command data.shape. So this is my fourth step. This will tell us that how many rows and how many columns are there in the data. When you do Shift Enter, you can see that there are 891 rows and 12 columns. As the columns are displayed here and rows, since we have asked the Python file to show only the first 5 rows, it is showing from 0 to 4. Now I want to check what are the data types of each column. For that, I will be using the command data.info. Before that, let me tell you a brief introduction on data type. So, what is a data type? Basically, data type represents what kind of value does a column hold. Is it a numeric or a text? Based on the data type, Python determines what operations can be performed on that data. So basically there are 4 types of data types: object, integer, float, date type. So object means text or mixed numeric values. It is something like a name of a person, a place, or a place and a number combined. That comes under object data type. In integer, there are numbers which are non-decimal numbers, and in float we can get decimal numbers. And date and time are something in which you can use if the columns contain any date or time values. That comes under date time 64 data type. Now let us use this command data.info and check what are the data types of the columns. Let me execute this by entering Shift Enter. As you can see, there are all the types of data types in the columns. The first column is an integer, second is an integer, third is also an integer, fourth, that is name, that is an object, correct, because it has text values, so it is showing as object. Age, sex, age is basically a number, so it is showing as float. Male or female, that is showing as object. Ticket, object. Fare, float. Cabin, object. Embark, object. So as you can see that all the data types are correct for the respective columns. There is one more important thing that I want to discuss with you guys is integer 64 and float 64 are also called numerical columns, and object is also called categorical column. Now we can check what are the null values in each column. Basically null means blank. How many blank columns are there in each column? For this I will use two functions. That is data.isNull is a one function and .sum is an added function to that. Let me show you by executing this what we are going to get. So this shows that how many null values are there in each column. As you can see, the column age has 177 null values, cabin has 687 null values, embark has 2 null values. So data.isNull shows the null values, but why we are using this code .sum? The reason to use this is that it will basically do summation of all the nulls. So it will give a total aggregate value of each column. That's why we are using the in code .sum. Now let's run it. We can see that since these null values are there, we have to delete the columns that are not required. Otherwise, in our predictions, there will be a variation. So, how to delete a column and which column we are going to delete here? We are going to delete embark column here since it has 2 null values. Now, how to delete a column? To delete a column, you should use a code data.drop and then mention the column name which you are going to delete And why we are giving axis equal to 1 is because it is a column. If you want to delete row, it will be axis equal to 0. In place is equal to true. That means you are deleting the column embark. Now let's execute this. It is executed. Now let us check whether the column is deleted or not. As you can see, there is no column called embark now. The embark column has been deleted. Now, since we have null values here in age column and cabin column, let us fill those null values. I can fill those null values with any of the number. Let's say 30. As you can see, to fill any null value, you should mention as data, the column name, dot, fill that null, fill NA with the number 30. And when you execute this and you see the columns, you can see that the age column has no null values now. So the next operation that we can perform is split values. If you see our data, there is a column called name. Let me show you in the data. This is the column which I was talking about, in which first there is a last name mentioned, then there is a comma, and then there is a first name of the person. Now I want to split this column into two columns, first name and last name. For that I can use split function. Let me show you how. So here we are going to split the name into last name and first name. So data, in what columns we are going to split that, which column we are going to split, and use the command split. And when you execute this and check the data, you can see that there are two columns in the end, last name and first name. As you can see, the last name has been splitted, and as you can see, we have mentioned a comma here which indicates that the name, after which if you encounter a comma, from there you have to split the name. That means in name you have Brown, comma Mr. Owen Harris. That means after Brown there is a comma. This comes into last name and Mr. Owen Harris comes into first name column. Now the next operation we can do is we can look values in categorical variables. In the column sex, I want to count how many are males and how many are females. So I use the function dot value underscore count. So let me show you how we are going to do this. Let me execute this code. This gives you the information of male and female count in sex column. So in my data, I have 577 males and 314 females. Next operation we can perform is to sort my data. Let's say I just want female data should come first and then the male data. For that I can use sorting. For sorting we use dot sort underscore values. Now when you do this, let me execute this and show you. And when you can check in the data, you can see that there are first column you are getting females first and then you will be getting males. As you can see that serial number 383 is coming first because we have sorted it in a in a basis of sex. So the female data is coming first and male data will be populated after that. So you see, these are the operations we can perform using Pandas library. This will be very beneficial once we do a data cleaning activity. In the next video, we will take about how to use these pandas, and with that, how we can use Seaborn and Matplotlib. These are the topics we will be learning in our next video. Thank you.